Welcome everyone to this webinar about designing for low CO2. In this webinar, we will explore how eco-design and circular design aspects are a natural part of the way for hardware companies in achieving zero emission and zero environmental impact. We're very excited as well to have a guest with us from SHL Medical, Dora Rio, and I will ask her to introduce herself a little bit later in the presentation here. I should warn you as well that we have a little bit of a technical challenge with some of the video feeds, so if there is a speaker so not showing later during the webinar, let's not panic. It's probably something we can sort, or hopefully something we can sort during the time here. Before we go into the speakers and deeper into the topic, this webinar is hosted and presented by Stena Circular Consulting, which I am also part of. Stena Circular Consulting is a wholly owned subsidiary of Stena Recycling Group, and we are a specialist consultancy with about 20 specialists who help companies in establishing circular businesses and circular flows. So the focus is on materials and hardware products. We work mainly in the 4 areas that are displayed on the lower left side of this slide. If you want to know more about us and read a little bit about projects we do and so on, feel free to follow us on LinkedIn or visit our website, which you can reach through the QR code on the right-hand side of this slide. We will also display this QR code and some contact details at the end of the webinar, so no stress in putting your phone up right now. Speakers and faces you will see in the webinar here today are, well, mine, first of all. My name is Oskar Wallin-Berdin. I am a principal consultant and lead for part of the team here at Stena Circular Consulting. I have more than a decade of experience in developing strategies, running transformation programs and that type of things from major companies on behalf of their management. And since a little bit more than 2 years, I apply what I've learned as a management advisor to sustainability and circularity topics at Stena Circular Consulting. As guest speaker today, we're very happy to have Dora Rio with us, who is the head of sustainability at SHL Medical. And I would check, Dora, are you with us now? Do you want to say a couple of words to introduce yourself?
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Oskar. It's my great pleasure being here with this team. It's my great pleasure to introduce what we've been doing at SHL Medical with Stena. So as Oskar said, I'm the head of sustainability. I joined the company.
Seems like we lost speech there from Dora. Perhaps we move on to Ulrika, and maybe you can introduce yourself briefly and we can get back to Dora's introduction perhaps at a later stage in the webinar. Ulrika is an operations lead at Stena Circular Consulting. Would you like to say a couple of words as well?
Yes, absolutely. As an operations lead at Stena Circular Consulting, I work with various tasks within operations. I'm not going to go into detail because it would take up too much time, but basically my experience lies within sales and operations. And during this webinar today, I will monitor the Q&A section that you can find in the top center of the screen. And there you are very welcome to type your questions all throughout the webinar. And when we reach the end of the presentation, we will gather them and pose as many as we can to Dora and Oskar.
Excellent. Good to have you with us as well, Ulrika, and thank you for setting up this webinar for us. In front of us, we have a packed 40 or so minutes where we will talk about eco-design and circular design aspects in hardware companies. We will talk first about how eco-design is a natural part of the journey to zero emission and zero environmental impact for hardware product companies. Then we will talk about implementation of eco-design into products. So we'll take a little bit of the product development, design, innovation, team, angle and focus looking at eco-design. And then thirdly, we will open up the floor for discussing the case with SHL Medical as well. And here we will take the perspective of looking at how do you implement eco-design not only once, but continuously as a company into processes, KPIs, and so on. So properly implement it into the web of a company. So agenda point 1 and 2 will be generic, not about SHL Medical, and the third one will be about the case we have done with SHL Medical. All right, let's dive into how eco-design is a natural part of the journey to zero. So first of all, let's look at how companies, what companies are doing to act on sustainability and why they're doing so. Well, in research out there and also in our own experience, companies are facing increasing pressures from all their different stakeholder groups, essentially, to increase the work that they do with sustainability. As an example, or maybe as the stakeholder group that companies pay the most attention to, the customers. An example from the Bain survey of global B2B customers from last year showed that about 1 in 3 B2B customers would be happy to change the supplier that they worked with if the supplier did not meet sustainability criteria. And the same respondents answered that, or more than half of the same respondents answered that they would be happy to change supplier in 3 years from now. So the survey took place in 2024, so this is just 2 years out from now then. In the same survey, half of the respondents said that they would be willing to pay a price premium of 5 percentage points or more for a product that showcase clear sustainability advantages over other products. So clear interest from customers and also an increasing pressure or interest, if you will, here. Another angle and avenue of pressure that is being posed to companies is increasing regulatory pressure. And I think all of you have noticed, heard about, and probably felt the pressure of regulations that are being implemented by the European Union for businesses that have activities in the European Union. And even if not all of these regulations are relevant or put requirements on your business, chances are that one or multiple aspects in these regulations are. So it makes sense to pay attention here, to analyze what pressures have been put, and also to follow the general trend that is being posed by regulators here. Pressures are also coming from investors, talents, and from other angles, but we will not dwell more on those in this session today. Instead, we will look at what companies are doing a little bit more practically to act on sustainability. And sustainability has many flavors to it and many aspects. But something we have noted is that most companies out there tend to see sustainability through the lens of CO₂ or greenhouse gas emissions. So that they make their plans and their reduction schemes focused on greenhouse gas emissions, and then tag other sustainability initiatives along that journey. And many companies tend to follow a sequence of steps, roughly like what I'm about to present now. First of all, companies look at their own operations and try to clean up their own operations. Practically what this means is that they buy renewable energy certificates, maybe increase production efficiency, other aspects of reducing the internal footprint, such as reducing flight travel, and so on. And this has some impact on reducing scope 1 and 2 emissions. As a second step, many companies turn to their suppliers and ask them basically do the same thing as they've done themselves first. So asking them to commit to sustainability targets, greenhouse gas and other emission targets as well. And this, of course, has an impact on the scope 3 emissions for the company that has been put in these requirements. But after these 2 steps, suddenly it becomes a lot harder to address the emissions for a company. Because after having done these two steps, you get a lot closer to the own product and the packaging of that product. And that is really the core business if you're a hardware company. So here comes addressing emissions that are being emitted by your product during the use phase, and also the embedded emissions in the product and in the packaging itself. So actions here, of course, are to increase energy efficiency, maybe electrification and so on in the third box here. And in the fourth box, material selection, reducing the amount of material, recycled content, and those type of actions. And these two are both tricky because it means that you need to look at your own product and maybe fiddle with it and redesign or rethink even the product itself. And that's hard. What's even harder is the last step. So once a company has exhausted the options and what you can do in these four first boxes, then you get to extending the life of the products and ways to make money out of those products during a longer lifetime. We refer to this as enable circular models. And here you will find things like establishing take-back schemes, product as a service models, and so on. In our experience working with many companies on these type of questions, many companies, well, depending on industry and so on, have gotten differently far on this journey. But we see an increasing interest in the fourth box here to address the embedded product and packaging emissions. And that is also the focus of today's session. And eco-design, of course, as a concept can also include cutting use phase emissions. But for the purpose of this webinar, we will talk about the embedded product and packaging emissions. So now we talked a little bit about how eco-design and circular design is a natural part of the journey to zero, because as you saw, it's a natural stepping stone in that journey and one that is hard to go around if you're a hardware company. Now we'll take the perspective of a product development or product management unit and look at what practically can be done in products. Here, I am not an eco-design expert myself. I am a management advisor originally, right? So I've taken the liberty here to boil down what I think eco-design is to three main aspects. Now, my colleagues might think that I'm oversimplifying, but that can be perhaps a discussion for the Q&A session later or after the webinar. So when looking at products and trying to redesign them or change the designs to become more environmentally friendly, the first aspect to look at is really to lower CO2 or greenhouse gas emission or so by using less material. On the left-hand side of this slide, we have collected some examples of how much it's reasonable to believe that material reduction can both be done in products, but also how much CO2 reduction it can generate. And these examples are such that are being used by companies for marketing purposes and so on. So they're worth taking with a pinch of salt. But we think based on experience that it makes sense to, if you redesign a product that has not been designed for using less material before, that you should expect to be able to reduce the material weight by, let's say, 5, 15, 25% or so, somewhere in that range. The really extreme and big numbers you can get here are a consequence of taking a really step back and redesigning the way the product functions. And that is what we're trying to illustrate with the picture on the right-hand side, where you, of course, have removed the spring, which is naturally, since it's made out of metal, a high emission source, potentially. The second avenue to look at for redesigning products is the material selection. So in the previous slide, we had using less of the same material. Here we have using another material that maybe emits less emissions in the production of it itself. And here on the left-hand side, we have some examples of such materials that in some cases can be good replacement for example, virgin sources. Here we talk about recycled materials, we talk about bioplastics, etc. And you can see here that the numbers are quite significant. So if you start out on your eco-design journey, it makes sense to look at the materials that are in your product and see, can any of these materials or parts be replaced by a lower emission material? Because that's usually a good way to start, depending on the product. Right-hand side, we're trying to illustrate here how much ABS you would get for 1 kilo of CO₂ equivalent in the production. And you see that's significantly more if you use recycled ABS. The third avenue to explore is to extend the product's lifetime. Also here, we have collected some examples and statistics of what can be done when it comes to CO₂ emission reductions by extending a product lifetime. This can be a complicated avenue to explore because if you let your products live for much longer, then maybe your growth and business strategy department will call you and say, well, how do we now make money of this? So it's really development that has to be done between both product and the business side of things, maybe even more so than the other two avenues. But here, for the right product, significant reductions can be done. Another thing to explore here and to think about is, well, how do you practically let the product live longer? Is it just by changing the design and using more rigid or sturdy materials? Or is it also so that you should implement some kind of more engaged maintenance protocol or maybe upgradability and so on? That is what the picture on the right-hand side here is intending to illustrate. Very good. So those were 3 avenues to explore to improve the ecological footprint of your products. We wanted to share 2 other aspects that we think might help somebody who is entering the eco-design journey here. The first one on the left-hand side here, it's important to realize that a large share, they usually say 80%, the ones who are experts on this, 80% of this sustainability footprint of a product is decided at the very first stages of a design concept and design innovation development. So if you infuse eco-design aspects and requirements very late in the process, it will be kind of too late to change things, at least that have a significant impact. The consequence of that is what we're trying to illustrate in this very illustrative graph there, where it says eco-design 1 and 2. Because if you need to instill eco-design ideas early on in the process, it means that it's very difficult to take an existing product that has been sold and redesign it. Usually it's a better way and smarter and easier to get impact if you instead try to infuse your eco-design into new products and maybe new generations of existing products that are being developed. The other idea we wanted to share here on the right-hand side is if you don't know where to start on the product, and maybe you have a very large and complex product like a car or something, it makes sense to start redesigning and thinking about how to make parts more sustainable that aren't visible and that don't have a very kind of stringent mechanical requirements to them. For example, hidden plastic panels in the car. Similarly for packaging, maybe you don't start with the consumer packaging that your consumer sees unless you want to use it for marketing, but maybe instead you use it for, or you address transport packaging and that type of things that aren't seen by consumers. Those were some ideas we wanted to share on eco-design. And we have talked so far about how eco-design is a natural journey on the path to zero, a natural part of the path to zero, and also how one can think about implementation in products. But then if you are a sustainability manager or somebody in the business strategy department or so, you might think about, well, how do I make my company implement eco-design into my company? And here is where our case with SHL Medical really comes in. And before maybe we jump into the content of the case, I would like to see if we have Dora with us now, and whether you would like to maybe also wrap up the introduction of yourself and also talk a little bit about SHL Medical, so our viewers have the context here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Oscar, and apologies. I think you have noticed that my technical issues. So as I was saying, I'm the head of sustainability. I'm here at SHL, and it's with great pleasure that I share with you what we've been doing with Stena support. Maybe a snapshot about what is SHL Medical. If you see in the top, you see these devices, right? So these are auto injectors. These are the devices that we are putting in a market to help patients to be independent. So you see our big motto, we enable patients' independence. It's because our patients, because they use these devices, they are free, they are released to go to the hospital. So this is our main core motto in SHL Medical. We are a company that is based in Switzerland, headquarters in Switzerland. We are a family business owner. I mean, we are a company that started more than 30 years ago already in this business. We are not only manufacturing these devices that you see, but we design them. We design also the tooling to be able to produce them. And the value proposition that we have for our customers is really this design of the device, design of the tooling, manufacturing, and also labeling and packaging. So this is what we do, what we are known to do well. Since the last 30 years, we've been putting in a market, as you see, millions of these devices. Some of them, you will see them in a market because are really blockbusters in the med tech industry. Last year, just to give you a sense in terms of numbers, we have placed in the market more than 140 million devices. And this also brings us some challenge. We are still looking now at the opportunities, and I'll come there later. So with these 140 million devices, we place now in the market more than 60 combinations, so variants of the device you have seen. And at the moment in time, we are more than 6,000 employees. So we are now present in different, we have a global presence. We are here in Europe. We are increasing our capabilities here in Switzerland. We also have an important footprint in US, which we have done some recent acquisitions, and we are also enlarging there. And we also have presence in Asia, namely in Taiwan, when we have some of our large manufacturing plants. So this is a little bit SHL to give you a sense of what we do. Our main customers are the large pharma companies. I would say really healthcare business, very large organizations. We also have healthcare companies on the innovation side. So we have large, we have small, we have the ones more innovative, the ones less innovative, but this is our portfolio. I would like to give you a little bit of a sense of our sustainability commitment. So 2 years ago, we have set our sustainability strategy. So it's a strategy for 2030. We have different commitments across the so-called ESGs, environmental, social, and governance topics. And within the environmental topics, which is what I wanted to share with you today, we have a set of targets related to products, related with climate, and also related with the waste. We used to call the ones with products and waste our circularity targets, and then climate. So just to give you a sense, in light blue, you see one that brought us here today to share our experience. It's because we want that 100% of our new products, they are there to eco-design principles by 2025. So this is already, 25 is already this year. So this means concretely that all of our new products that will be placed on offer to the customers after this year will already meet what we call eco-design principles and criteria that we will be learning today. Together with this KPI, we have also set another one because we don't only want to show that they meet the criteria, but we want to drive impact. So what we have as a second target is that we commit to reduce 30% on the environmental impact. Here we are talking about carbon emissions by 2030. On the bottom, what you see are the targets related to waste. So we want to recycle more than 80% of our waste from operations, and we want to reduce 20%. This versus our baseline, which was 22. On the right side, you see our targets on climate. So we have signed 2 years ago, we have committed with a science-based target, a near term. So under this scope, we want to reduce 42% greenhouse gas emissions, Scope 1 and 2, by 2030, and 51.6% of CO₂ emissions, Scope 3, per unit sold, also by 2030 and baseline 22. And on top of that, we want to have 100% renewable electricity by 2030. So this gives us a little bit of a sense where we are in our journey. Last year was our first year of real implementation of the strategy. We've been working towards these topics for longer, but now in a very structured manner. We are really accelerating our journey.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Dora, and for introducing SHL Medical to our audience. And by the way, really happy to have you with us today in the webinar. I had a question for you. So it's obvious that SHL is embarking on a very ambitious sustainability route here. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on like the drivers behind SHL Medical taking such an ambitious route on sustainability?
Sure, absolutely. Maybe I would highlight 3 angles of it. So one angle is really that it's to deliver on our strategy. So as you can imagine, as a company, we want to be able to sell more, to produce more, because we are fully convinced that our devices and our products, it meets a social need, which is really helping our patients to be independent first, so that our patients, they have a therapy, but then they have a therapy that make them free and make them be able to live a normal condition. So for that, we believe that this sustainability and these goals that we are setting are going to be an enabler for innovation. So the fact that we are here already looking at what eco-design criteria can we integrate and how we actually create metrics for that, it's already a driving for our teams so that they push the boundaries of their knowledge so that we innovate and we bring more devices with better attributes without impacting naturally the environment. A second element is really about stakeholders' expectations. I was mentioning that our customers, we provide our products to healthcare. We see more and more the customers asking for attributes in sustainability, namely CO₂ emissions reduction. We see that, namely in European Union, we are having now also targets in public tenders for which they need to apply for. So therefore, for us, it's critical if we want to meet stakeholders, meaning here customers' expectations, that we really lift our sustainability performance of our product without compromising quality and without compromising reliability of the product. And third, I would talk about our genuine commitment from our management, right? So we really believe that we need to do a good business. Our motto, right? Our main value proposition is already on the social side of bringing a solution for the ones in need, right? So we really have an internal conviction that we should not be doing that, compromising the planet or compromising any ethical behavior. So therefore, we really want to do the right thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Dora, for sharing again. And could you maybe also describe a little bit about the background that led you to focus on specifically on eco-design and to even have a target specifically on eco-design?
Sure, with pleasure. So what we have noticed is that in the healthcare industry, we see that our customers more and more worried and about their own sustainability agenda, and a topic that is very important now is, but what do we do to all of this plastic, right? Because basically this is what we are doing. And very soon we understood that we have a very important role to play. We, the suppliers of the healthcare business and the suppliers of the customers that need to handle the waste, right? The end of life of the product. And we were very committed to really help them in this journey. And we understand that we are at the source in the very beginning of this value chain. And therefore we have all of the knowledge, all of the tools to make it better. So the main motivation was that one. And then 2 years ago already, we have defined our eco-design principles. And with those eco-design principles, it was a statement from our side that we set boundaries, we set a framework, And as an organization, we said we'll be navigating this framework. What we have realized is that from a framework and principles to real implementation, we need a way to go, and we need to go much more granular. So this is exactly where this project came up, because we really decided to fully embed in the innovation and development process. And for that, we needed to develop further process. We needed to develop process, we needed to develop metrics, we need to develop guidelines, and we also need to create a mechanism to demonstrate all of this effort to our customers, right? And here we are, right? Navigating now already all of these deliverables to really ensure that we embed it into the process in a sustained manner.
Excellent. And I think maybe that's a good segue to actually look at a little bit how the project that we did together was structured and how we did things. So I suggest we move on to that part. Now we'll switch slide here as well. In the project that we did together, we started out with looking at basically what the eco-design principles were that you had defined, narrowing down to what actions really were the right ones to take for SHL Medical and for your products. And we also documented that as a roadmap. And to get to that stage, we went through the actions that are in the dark font on white background on top here. So we looked at the current state assessment. As you said, Dora, there had already been a lot of work done by SHL before. So we wrapped up and documented that part. We also did a regulatory review together where we looked at both what potential sustainability regulations would maybe impact SHL Medical, its products, and also packaging. And we also looked together with your regulatory team on what kind of constraints and so on could be posed by, for example, the medical device regulation and other similar regulations. We looked at your sustainability ambition, and then towards the last two steps here, feasibility and impact analysis. That is an activity we did through a series of interviews and workshops with a cross-functional task force that we set up together of some 25 people, which were across R&D, design, procurement, quality teams, etc. And then we ended up with a boiled down version that we concluded was feasible, a set of actions that was feasible, and a roadmap of additional things that we thought made sense to look into further before implementing anything. So Dora, if I turn to you again, one aspect of this project that we discussed already from the very beginning and that we really followed through together with was to have a cross-functional team engaged with a lot of key stakeholders from the various teams in your company. Could you maybe describe a little bit what led you to also push for this cross-functional task force and to involve all of these people in the work here?
Sure. I mean, I would say that designing and manufacturing devices, it's a lot of work. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work across the business, right? So for me personally, it looks there. It's essential that all of the players in these different phases, from conception to the manufacturing, they are involved. For sure that designing something in a different manner with different materials, with less materials, with many trade-offs, requests discussion, requests this understanding about till where can we push and till where can we change. So it was very important to have innovation development teams. It was very important to have the insights from manufacturing. It was very important to have our supply chain and procurement on board, because having some change in terms of materials without having a supply chain that is ready to supply the materials that we need is a no-go, right? So for us, it was essential to bring them and to engage them, because the implementation will be also much more easier once we fully start.
I agree, and having been part of many of those interviews and workshops myself, I can say that just putting people in the same room from all these functions, I think created a lot of energy around this topic, and also new learnings because you see things from different perspectives, right? If you engage with people from various functions.
Absolutely. And maybe if I can add, Oscar, I think what I also
Sure.
see is a high motivation from the teams to make it happen, right? So
Yeah.
by being part of this journey, they really feel that they are the ones owning the change and change for the better. So therefore, it's really a canalizer of energy as well for engagement.
Yeah, fully agree. And then the second kind of phase or second part of the project had to do with taking the actions and the roadmap that we had concluded in the first part and find a way to implement that into the web of SHL Medical, into the natural development processes and so on. And here we first developed a set of targets that were applicable for all products. We also developed a set of, or a framework for developing targets for specific product development projects. So certain aspects and targets that are used internally are suitable to use across, and some are not suitable to use across, right? So that's what those two different pillars represent. Then we also developed an eco-design guideline as well as an eco-design scorecard. And these two assets are being used then by the SHL Medical, the project management, which drives innovation and product development projects through the product development process to both get guidance and also evaluate and cross-compare concepts and also concepts versus existing products. I think just reflecting on this process, I mean, eco-design has been clear from you, Dora, all the time that eco-design has always intended to be part of the development and the development processes at SHL Medical, and not run as a separate side project, right, on the side of the ordinary product development. Could you elaborate a little bit on why you had taken this approach at SHL Medical?
Oh, absolutely. First, we didn't want to create siloed process because we do not believe that sustainability is something that we do as side, right? So this is actually what we take as a premise for in many other areas we are working. For us, it's very important that sustainability is lived and is lived by the functions that they have ownership and since the very beginning. So therefore, for us to ensure that we sustain these eco-design principles, that we systematically integrate into the innovation and development in this 100% of new devices, we had to dock into the normal process. And that's really the journey we are in. And we believe that is the only way to really ensure that sustainability is everyday activity and it's not a pilot, it's not a project, it's fully in the way we operate.
Right. And I think as a consultant, I've worked with SHL and with this type of processes, I think that is the, so to speak, right way to do it. Because the risk if you put it as a side project instead is that you do it once and then you don't have it for future products. So I think this is the way to go. One part of the project was to develop a scorecard, as we mentioned, and this is an illustration of a scorecard that can be used in this type of situations. This is not a representation straight off from SHL Medical's version, but basically this is an Excel where the project manager for a development project enters various sustainability data to be able to cross-compare various concepts and also concepts versus existing products on a broad range of sustainability metrics, including, for example, greenhouse gas impact, but also other aspects. And the illustration on the right-hand side here is trying to illustrate then how such a multi-dimensional comparison can be used to compare, for example, on various different sustainability aspects. Just looking at time here, I suggest we move on to the one of the last questions I had for you, Dora. So it's been clear also throughout the process of the work that we have done together that eco-design is not really like a one point in time effort, right? And then you can forget about it. Could you maybe share a little bit your thoughts on how eco-design is a journey at SHL Medical? And feel free to use a slide here if you want for that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the eco-design, we need to learn. First, I would say we need to learn about the properties of our products. How much can we push the boundaries, as I said? So There is an internal work that we need to do on testing now all of these criteria with the current portfolio. And then it's about also being open to the external world. There is incredible moment now of change, of innovation. We see new materials in the market. We see the healthcare business looking at take-back programs, and with that looking to recyclability properties of materials. So there is such an external momentum now as well that we cannot be blind to that. So the way we see is that this is an iterative process. We learn, we improve, and we see what's coming out there from the external market. We talk to our suppliers, we talk to other customers, we learn from, as I said, from the end of life, and we evolve with the scorecard, but we also raise the bar, because nowadays we need all to keep raising the bar, because this is how we are going to really embed to have more sustainable products, whatever nature of the product we are talking. And therefore, this is how we'll be navigating. Testing, doing, improving, leveraging the ambition, and going it again.
Excellent. And we are, as probably the webinar viewers here as well, curious to see how this journey moves on. Could you, just as a last question for you, Dora, before we open up for a Q&A, would you want to share anything about what you see ahead for SHL Medical when it comes to eco-design?
Sure. So what we are really doing, and it's testing the scorecards, as I mentioned, testing in our products, and what we will be doing then is raising the bar as the external world is moving, as we also see. For us, is a journey that we are now embarking, and we are very eager to see where we go. And this is, I would see this process as a critical process, helping also to innovate, to think different. And when I say think different, it's think different across the whole organization. So we do not know where we are going to end, but there is a very good momentum and a very positive momentum from everyone to make these products much more sustainable.
Excellent. Thank you, Dora, very much for joining us today for this webinar. Really appreciate it. We're very short on time now, but perhaps we can take 1 or 2 questions just to wrap up the webinar.
I'll take the question that's been waiting the longest. It's from Anneli Malmström, and she's asking, making our products last longer actually makes our Scope 3 numbers look worse, since the user phase of our products is extended and energy use adds up over time. From a bigger picture perspective, we're leaning into a Scope 4 mindset, wishing to focusing also on the avoided emissions and climate benefits of durability. Have you explored this angle?
Might it be for me, Oscar? Do you want to go first and build on that?
I think it's an important comment. I think if you look at extending the lifetime of your products, you should also see the perspective of what is the value you as a company manage to add and for how many users, and how much of an emission and environmental impact do you have of that. And as you say, the Scope 4 kind of category emissions, or what is becoming the Scope 4 category emissions, is probably needed to fully showcase properly the benefits of doing what you're saying, extending lifetimes and so on. Then the other aspect that I wanted to comment on is, I don't know which product that you're thinking of that your company is working with, Anneli, but if you have a use phase emission, many products that are in the category that have use phase emissions also have a trade-off between upgrading to new products that are more energy efficient or that even use new fuels and so on, versus the longevity of the product itself. And that is a tricky balance that requires proper LCA-based, circular LCA-based analysis to find the right journey through, so to speak. Would you like to add as well, Dora?
That's it, Oscar. I mean, maybe the only thing I would say is that in the way we are looking is we need fundamentally to do business in a circular manner, right? So we are already looking to move from a single use to multi-dose and to reusability. And when we enter into reusability and when we enter into electronics-based devices, for instance, this is exactly where we need to push the boundaries of the lifetime of the product, because we place the life cycle assessments as the center of our design process, and what we see is that we can really reduce the footprint of the devices by thinking about that element.
Thank you, Dora. And I think we are a little bit over time, so I think it's time for us to wrap up. Today we talked about eco-design, the part it plays in the journey to zero for companies, the implementation in specific products, and then of course we went into the case and had a guest, Dora Rio from SHL Medical, and we talked about the implementation into processes, KPIs, etc. at SHL Medical. And to wrap up, I would also like to thank you, Dora, very much for joining this session. It's been a pleasure to have you with us and also to work with you, of course, in the project that we did together. And I look forward to follow SHL Medical's journey ahead.
Thank you so much, Oscar, for having me here. It was a pleasure to share this with the community, and we are always happy to share in further events and in other opportunities. Thank you so much for also your support here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dora. And thank you to all the listeners and viewers as well. I hope you have learned something, and I look forward to hearing from you if you have further questions or so as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.